do if we do quiet down and we are in the present moment, but the emotions are just too overwhelming, or it's almost traumatic? What should we do?
Very good question. And you've read my book, so I would give you a little A there. Yeah. So I have a whole chapter, I have a whole section in my book on this particular topic, because it's one that people really struggle with. Mm-hmm. And talk about something that we should have been taught as children, right? This is a skill. Emotional intelligence is a skill that we really should be giving as much attention to as other kinds of intelligence, right? But it doesn't happen, right? And so I get people who are, let's say, 60 years old, and they've never been taught how to deal with their emotions. That's criminal, right? When they could have learned this when they were in kindergarten. Starting in kindergarten, it's not too soon to start teaching a child, first of all, that their emotions are natural, right? And there's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with sadness. There's nothing wrong with disappointment. There's nothing wrong with loneliness. All of these emotions that we're going to have, every single human being has difficult emotions, right? And so mindfulness practice and mindfulness teaches us how to feel the emotions and feel them without reacting. So our first response to a challenge, let's say, might be to react, right? And that's because the body is wired biologically to have the fight, flight, freeze response, right? Threat, respond, or react. Mindfulness gives us a space to stop and breathe. So the first thing to do is to stop and really take a few deep breaths. When you breathe deeply, you're activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And we can't really process emotions when we're in fight, flight, or freeze. So calming the body in some way is really an important practice. Just getting some space from the situation, stopping and breathing, and then labeling it. I know I did that in that little practice we did earlier, but the ability to label your emotion accurately is one of the most powerful things that you can do to get to feel some buffer or some distance from the emotion, and not making the emotion like who I am. I am not anger. There is anger present. I am not loneliness, but there's loneliness present. And those emotions come up based on circumstances in our lives. And so we can honor them. We can acknowledge them. That's the first step, is just to recognize this is anger or this is loneliness. I just had a thing where I do anger. So anger is one of my common reactions to things. It's just the way my personality is made up. And so I can feel that anger, and then that's my signal to stop. Take a deep breath. Take a few deep breaths. Recognize this is anger. Also, just allow it, right? We don't need to push it away. We don't need to stuff it with anything. We don't need to distract ourselves, but just go, yeah, I'm feeling angry right now. Okay. Observe. What are you thinking? What does the body feel like? What are the stories? Because difficult emotions usually bring up stories from our past, right? Something triggers us, and it's not just what's triggering us in the present moment, but anything that's ever been like that is now coming up to say, make it even huger, even larger. Okay, so I can acknowledge all of that. And then after I've had a time to allow that to happen, then I can proceed. So for instance, this situation that just happened to me, there was anger. I felt it. I heard the stories. It has a long history with this particular person, that this might trigger some issues. And I waited. And then I thought, once I felt settled, you kind of let all of this swirl around, and you feel it, and it comes up and it goes down, it comes up and it goes down, and you watch the waves. You continue to breathe. You might even talk to somebody about it. I talked to my husband, talked to a friend. And then after it was all said and done, I was down at the heart level. And I decided I don't want to give any energy to this, right? And I don't need to respond in any way at all. There's nothing I need to do but to let it go and move on, right? And so it took this whole, cycle of processing. So then I had my next course of action. Sometimes you'll need to go back and say something, and so every circumstance is going to be different. But really doing all of that within yourself, then it's over. That situation is over. If we don't process the difficult emotions, they keep coming back up. You didn't listen to me. You didn't listen to me. You didn't listen to me. And so if you don't process it, it's still going to be there. So mindfulness, it can be a little weird at first, particularly if people are just starting to practice mindfulness. What they normally experience is all the things that they didn't process. Right? So yeah, the beginning of mindfulness practice can be a little hard in that respect. And that's why I really suggest that people get a teacher. That's why teachers are so important. Teachers that can guide you through that, difficult time as you're starting to practice mindfulness. And I think teachers are just important in general. Somebody who's a little bit ahead of you. That's all a teacher is. Somebody that's already been through what you're going through that can help guide you through that. And in mindfulness practice, just picking up an app or, clicking on a meditation is fine. But if you really start to practice, you're going to have difficulties that you're going to be well served by having a teacher of some kind.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah. I mean, the same thing, you give the same advice in terms of, firstly, being connected with the body. So if you are experiencing the anger, just feel what it feels like to be angry, right? And feel it at the heart and, be connected with it. And what we often do, and I love how you said that, if you don't process it, it's going to come back. What we resist persists, right?
Right.
Exactly. So, and I guess there's this, even with emotions, there's this constant striving for it to be different. We don't want to feel unhappy anymore. I want to be happy. I want to experience peace, and I'm not experiencing peace right now. So I don't like where I am at right now. And that's what causes a lot of the issues. And I mean, the same with being unhappy with your body. I don't like being fat or overweight or ill or suffering from some disease. And that's where that constant striving comes in for wanting to be different from where we are now. And that causes a lot of issues, right?